Hello, welcome to the Matchbook Racing Review. We are in our third week and we are about to say goodbye properly to the jump season as we really embrace the flat. We will have Punchestown, of course, coming up, which Donn and I are very much looking forward to. But from here on in, once we're off the back of our Scottish Grand National chat, which we're going to touch upon very shortly, we will be embracing the flat, talking all things flat as well, because we had a very informative weekend on the flat between Britain and Ireland, which Donn and I will be reviewing. But Donn McClean is on the other side of the screen. How are you, sir? Lovely to see you again this Monday.
Yeah, likewise, Tom. Yeah, no, all good, good. It was a very good weekend's racing, as you say. We had this discussion on Monday as well. Last Monday, it's the national hunt season is kind of ending, and the flat season is getting going. And you're of course the new 2-year-olds. Nobody knows anything about them yet. Even horses who are coming out, there's a little bit of guesswork involved as to how fit a horse is going to be, based on, I guess, trainer form, horse form, market moves. And then it's just a case of, getting reacquainted with the body of form that these horses have produced. But it's a very interesting stage of the year.
We will come on to the 2-year-olds very shortly. We saw a very interesting one by the champion, and who could be a champion sire. We don't know, American Pharaoh for Aidan O'Brien. But we'll come to that very shortly. Let's get the Scottish National and really the Ayr meeting wrapped up and done, because we saw some very interesting performances. I think we saw some good performances with regard to next year as well, for some good novice performances. And the Scottish Grand National itself, well, these Grand Nationals always throw up a story. It wasn't quite the Tiger Roll, let alone the Tiger Roll double.
But Tiger double, yeah.
Exactly. But we still saw a good performance from the winner of the Scottish National. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, it could have all ended at the first fence. He got in tight to the first fence. He seemed to be crowded out of it, taking risks. Nicky Richard's horse. And in fairness to Sean Quinlan, he did very well to remain on board. And the horse, even though he did remain on board, you make a mistake like that, even so early in a big race like that, you're really on the back foot thereafter. It should have been, or could have been, a race-ending mistake. But he got back into a nice rhythm. And he moved back up through the field quite quickly. Like, by the time he passed the winning post with 2 circuits to run, he was in the first 6 or 7 again. And it's a race, looking back through the years, you generally don't want to be too far back in a Scottish National. You generally want to be close enough to the pace, especially when the ground is good or fast, as it was on Saturday. But no, in fairness to taking risks, he got into his rhythm then. He jumped well. He hit the front, just leaving the back straight. Crosspark came and passed him on the run to the third last and looked like he was going to go on and win it. I put up Crossparks as a horse to follow after the Eider chase, but for the Midlands National, not for the Ergo, or for the Ergo Cup, for the Scottish National. I thought he'd be, back at Uttoxeter would be his thing, but he ran some race now to go as close as he did. He looked the winner going to the third last, but taking risks, fought back on the far side and stayed on really well to win. In fairness, Crosspark, he only just held on for second place. From Cloth Cap and Blue Flight, I mean, if you're looking for horses to take out of the race, not that it's rocket science, but they're probably the 2 to take out of it. Like, they're both young horses. Cloth Cap is 7. He's only run 4 times over fence. Blue Flight is 8, or sorry, 6. He's a year younger. He's run 6 times, and they're both lovely horses. They both stayed on really well from the rear.
He's going to be carrying, just on Blue Flight. He was. We did the pod. Rory and I did the pod. Actually, we didn't have a bad record because Dingo Dollar didn't run, so that was all right.
First winner,
exactly. Money saved, and then Cloth Cap was third. I think Rory put up at 16s. I put Blue Flight up at 26.0. So, we got some places in there, but he's going to be shouldering a lot of weight going forward. Blue Flight. I think he's a good horse. I wonder how they're going to place him now, because these staying handicaps, they're not going to get any easier. And I'm not saying he's going to go up necessarily for that. He was beaten in total, about 5 lengths. So he might.
He'll probably go up a couple of pounds, but he's a big horse, isn't he? He's only 6, but he's a horse who should be able to shoulder weight. I mean, it's the reverse of what Michael O'Leary was saying about Tiger Roll. He's a small horse, and every pound you go above, I don't know what where the threshold is where a pound counts for more than a pound. 11 stone 10 is the reason why the top weight in the Grand National was reduced from 12 stone to 11 stone 10, because it's just, those extra pounds at the top end of the weights. Probably, I'm not sure if there's any scientific proof for it, but it seems that it counts for more than a pound at the, from 10.7 to 10.8. It's different from 11.13 to 12 stone. But no, I think Blue Flight, he's a progressive horse. He's as you say, he's 148. He ran off on Saturday. We'll probably know tomorrow what the handicapper's done. He'd probably get a couple of pounds, but he shouldn't get any more than a couple of pounds. And for me, the big thing about him was he made ground from the rear. Like, he was held up early on, and I think he can be marked up a little bit on that, given that he, for the fact that he made ground from the rear.
I want to mention just Getaway Trump as a horse who I think's got a bright future. He won the first race of the meeting back on the Friday afternoon, and he won over 2 miles. I'd initially had him down as a sort of a 2 mile handicap horse based upon his rating. I had him down as a possible for the county hurdle at Cheltenham. We know he was taken out of that. He'd been really disappointing when seen previously. He didn't run his race in the Betfair hurdle. I think he's a good horse, and he just went through the race like I think the horse they always thought he could be. I know Paul Nicholls has got a good record in that race, but I think he's pretty smart. I think he'll get a little bit further as well. And depending on how they campaign him next year, I'm not certain. I think they've still got the option of novice hurdles early next season, but I think he could be a nice little chaser in the making. I was quite taken with him. Was there anything else at Ayr that caught your eye, Don? Anything else that jumped out at you performance-wise?
Yeah, I think look, the Scottish National obviously was the feature race. It's the race that we kind of focused on mainly. But Verdana Blue, she was very, very good in winning the Scottish Champion Hurdle. Like we know with her, she wants good ground. Champion Hurdle, the ground was all against her. She didn't run at Aintree because the ground was against her. I remember even when she ran in the Betfair Hurdle a couple of years ago at Newbury, she travelled really well into the race. Davy Russell rode her that day, and he got off her afterwards and said she'll be a different filly or a different mare now when she gets fast ground. And she had it on Saturday, or at least good ground, and she was superb. Like she just quickened away so impressively. And on fast ground, and I know she's beaten Bouvardin in a Christmas hurdle, but she could be up there with the top hurdlers if we I don't know if we'll ever get a fast ground Cheltenham again, but on fast ground, she's top notch. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Just on that, I don't know if Cheltenham's really her bag. It wasn't. When she ran in the Greatwood, it wasn't horrendous ground, but I think a flat track and quick ground. I know Ayr's galloping, but it's flatter than Cheltenham, and I think that really plays to her strengths. I tell you what, she could be interesting if she gets a summer campaign on the flat on decent ground. She's really good.
I think the actual fast ground, as opposed, you're right about the Greatwood Hurdle. I don't know what the official ground was, but it was just on the easy side of good. But like actual fast ground, like she probably had on Saturday, like it was I think it was officially good, but maybe it was faster than that. But yeah, like she just rattled off it, didn't she? Like she just seemed to really relish the just as the old lad used to say here in her hooves rattle, like that. She really did love quickening off that fast ground. She looked very good. I know it was only a handicap, but it's a grade 2 race.
But she had a bit of weight as well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I know that Conor Brace took off an important bit of weight, and
he gave her a nice ride as well, didn't he? Like he was patient on her. He didn't panic. He just was patient, let her move into the race, and then when he went for her, he did go for her. He was decisive. So I thought it was a nice ride. Secret Investor as well. Like look, Azuri won the first heat, one out of the park. He was unbelievable. And Secret Investor, I think he's a horse that probably doesn't get the credit that he should get.
I talked him up earlier this season. I dared to mention him as a King George horse next year because he'd won around Kempton over 3 miles over hurdles, and then he was disappointing there over fences when he was comfortably beaten by Bags Groove. He was comfortably beaten by Bags Groove earlier on this season. But he's come of age going from the front. Now I know King George is lofty. I think I remember when he was beaten by Bags Groove at Wincampton, and Harry Derham came over and he was saying, This is our horse for next year. He's one of our serious chasers for next year. I think he's really, really good. And I think a bit like Surname, when he's been allowed to bowl on and get stuck in from the front, he's looked good. I don't know where he fits in quite yet. In I'm sure Paul Nicholls knows, but I'm not quite certain where he fits in. But I think he's not quite got the recognition he deserves yet. I think he probably will next year. But maybe he is a 2.5 miler. I'm not sure. I think he's really good.
Is he viewed as a horse who needs everything to fall his way for him to put in a performance? And maybe that's it. And I think maybe that's holding him back reputationally. I think people maybe think that he needs absolutely everything to go right, and maybe that fits in with what you're saying about a loud bowl along in front.
Well, he needs to jump better for a start. Even out in front, he smashed through the last couple, didn't he? I mean, he still put it to bed pretty quickly. I mean, you wouldn't look at it and say it's the strongest race on paper. Alan King's horse was his main market rivals are good horse to come through the handicap ranks, but I think look, if he strengthens up next season, I think he could develop into a pretty smart horse. But it's still early days. I'm not getting King George carried away yet. You had a pretty good weekend on the pod, Don, because I know we mentioned Verdana Blue. Turning our attention to the flat, you and Rory were very keen on Mahatha. And in the Greatwood, he looked a proper horse. I thought the way he went through the race, and most importantly, the way he quickened as well. He looked like a pretty speedy horse.
Yeah, he did. No, he looked very good. Again, like it's for me at this stage of the flat season, it's quite tentative. I mean, I just thought whatever 11-2 or 5-1 was big enough, even into 7-2 or 113, and drifted back out to 9-2 then as SP. And I just thought maybe his Horace Hill run wasn't being given the credit that he was due because he was a 33 to 1 shot that day, and he wasn't the first string of Sheikh Hamdan's, but he was on Saturday, and no, he was very good.
Is he a Guineas horse, Don?
I wonder, is a mile going to be his thing? Like all his breeding is short of a mile, just short of a mile, i.e. 7 furlongs, and he looked so good over 7 furlongs. But he got 7 furlongs well in the Horace Hill as a juvenile. Obviously, the Greenham 7 furlongs, and he has that pace, and like the pace that he showed. If he can stretch that out, if Jim Crowley could sit still for another furlong, and then use that turn of foot, then at the end of after 7.5 furlongs, as opposed to after 6.5 furlongs, I worry. Look, you have to have a go at the Guineas. We don't know, but his breeding is kind of it's 6-7 furlongs, isn't it?
I want to make a comparison with Muhara, who went from Greenham to French Guineas to Commonwealth Cup, and I think this horse is a similar type. I know, naturally Marcus Tregoning is going to talk of him as a Guineas horse because he doesn't have another one, and Jim Crowley said he does deserve to line up over a mile in one of the classics, be it the French, be it this one. This one looks most likely, but I just wonder the way he quickened, the way he clearly is so speedy. The way he went through the race and then just off he went, almost push button accelerate. I'd love to see him back in a Commonwealth Cup and campaign that way. I think he'd be to my mind be most likely to go down that route as opposed to the staying a mile route. But we shall see.
Yeah, and I kind of go along with that. But look, I fully agree that he has to have a go at the Guineas. He's seen it. He's seen out 7 furlongs well, and he saw it out well last year as a juvenile. And to me, that's a factor. If you stay 7 furlongs as a 2-year-old, there's every chance you'll get a little bit further as a 3-year-old. So yeah, you definitely have to have a go at it. And look, you don't lose anything by having a go at a mile. Have a go at the Guineas, and if he doesn't see it out, you can drop back. And you say the Commonwealth Cup, it's a brilliant option that we have now for the last few years. And these Group 1 and 3-year-olds, they do have a real live option of at Royal Ascot, and then that's a lovely stepping stone into the when they need to go and take on the elders over sprint distances later in the season. So he's got loads of options.
Talking Muhara, I've been at the Breeze Ups today at Newmarket, the Craven Breeze Ups.
Did you buy anything?
Plenty. Not yet. That's over the next couple of days.
Right,
I'll have my guys.
You just
I'll have
left
them
your
on
orders.
course, put in the money out, Don. I've got people there. But maybe I won't. But I tell you what, he's got some nice 2-year-olds, and I think they're pretty well regarded as well. Some very interesting first season sides with their first 2-year-olds this year. Another one we will come to. But while we're on the subject of the Guineas, Persian King won at Longchamp over the weekend. A horse who was a winner at the back end at Newmarket last year when he looked a really good horse. Now runs in the Godolphin Blue for Andre Fabre, and he's a son of Kingman. Plenty did very well last year. They're exciting 3-year-olds. They're expected to come on. He didn't quite live up to the billing of, say, a 2 Darn Hot last year. That Jessica Harrington again at the same time as last week, Don.
Always right at this time.
Always the same time. About 12 minutes in. And yeah, I think he could be he is a really smart horse, but I think he could be very good this year. I'm really, really excited by this Persian King, and in particular to see how these Kingmans train on into their 3-year-old season.
He was very good at Newmarket last year in the Autumn Stakes, wasn't he? Like he travelled like a very, very good horse. I know he only won in the end by a neck, but he beat Mag McGreesh into second, and Mag McGreesh is, he's very good. We know that he's very good. Looking forward to seeing him again this year. But yeah, he's an exciting horse. Yeah, is he likely to go to Newmarket? Or I think is it French Guineas that they're thinking of more than going to Newmarket?
Yeah. And French, I think ultimately for the 10 furlong Prix de Jockey Club is the most likely aim for him. I think that is where they see him fitting in, and on his pedigree, I think that's the top end of what he'll get. I don't know if it screams a mile, and I mean Kingman was a miler. There's a bit of stamina in there, but I think 10 furlongs is where he'll be, and I think that is the most likely he'll go down the French Classic route, but I don't think he'll go beyond 10 furlongs. But he looks pretty smart. I'd love him to come over here. It's interesting that Andre Fabre is always willing to do that at the back end of the season as well with his 2-year-olds. He does it sometimes in the Sun Chariot with his fillies. He's done it before. He's happy to have a dart or two at Newmarket. But
and he thought, like, when he came over for the Autumn Stakes, you'd think that the Guineas the Newmarket Guineas would have been on his mind, because obviously Newmarket's, it's a quite a unique track, and an ability to handle it is a positive, and experience of it is always a positive going back as well. And Andre Fabre, his Guineas horses, fillies as well, he's like to have given them a run at Newmarket before he comes over and runs them in the Classic, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I think so much of the Guineas market at the moment depends on what's going on with Too Darn Hot, the cursed family as they are at the moment, who just seem to have a setback before their big engagement. But Too Darn Hot, I mean, so much of that Guineas market is centred around him, and naturally he's eased a bit, and others have become interesting as opposed to him. We talked up on the pod Royal Marine, who I'm still very positive about with regard to that race. But look, if he shows up 100% Too Darn Hot, based upon what he did last year, he's going to be very, very difficult to beat. But there are question marks floating around now, and you'd have to be worried if you're clinging on to an anti-post Too Darn Hot slip.
Yeah, like it's a massive worry, isn't it? I mean, at best, he arrives there in the back of a not ideal preparation, or at least not the preparation that Sean Gosling wanted to give him. At worst, he doesn't get there, and it has to be a concern. Both are possibilities at this stage, aren't they?
And weirdly, for John Gosling, if there's one race he hasn't got the knack of winning, it's the Guineas. You've got Roaring Lion, who was so good last season, came back to win over a mile. He was beaten in the Guineas. Kingman was beat. I don't know how that happened. Still, I don't know how that happened. That was just one of the strangest Guineas results I've ever seen, I think. Night of Thunder, who won that Guineas, he's got his first 2-year-olds out this year as well, interestingly. But that was a strange one. But he doesn't have I don't know why. He doesn't have the best record in the Guineas, but perhaps I wouldn't look too much into that. That might just be a coincidental thing. Too Darn Hot's clearly very, very good, but we hope to see him soon. Elsewhere over the weekend, some of the Irish performances. I'll kick off with Monarch of Egypt, a son of American Pharaoh, who was the US champion 4 years ago, back in 2015, when he won the Breeders' Cup Classic. He won the Triple Crown as well. And of course, he's got his first 2-year-olds this year. This is one of them, the first winner, the first runner over here. I think really interestingly were Aidan O'Brien's comments afterwards, Don, that he's got a fair few of them at home. He says the same thing about the Galileos as well. They're very good. They're very good movers. They've got a great mind. But that's interesting. And that team, they need the next Galileo. And I'm not saying this horse is going to be that as a sire, American Pharaoh, but the signs are good. It's good that this horse is winning over 5 on debut. He might be a commentary horse. He looks a Royal Ascot horse. He'll have to run again. But as far as a stallion goes, they're going to be looking for, and they were doing it a bit with Scat Daddy as well, weren't they? And they've got Justify as well now. But they're always looking to branch out, but also to try and get the next big thing as far as a stallion goes. And they've hit the ground running with this American Pharaoh horse.
Yeah, he was an unbelievable racehorse. Even looking back on his record after winning the Triple Crown, then he went and won the Breeders' Cup. Yeah, and look, there was always hope, and it's very exciting when any new stallion's progeny comes on the ground. This is the first one to run over here, and yeah, I know you're saying about Aidan O'Brien saying about his mind, but I think if he says that type of thing, he thinks it. It is a factor, and a thoroughbred's mind. I don't know the first thing about training thoroughbred racehorses, but I'd imagine their mind is as important as their physique, isn't it?
They always say that. I always say that about those Galileos. I mean, it absolutely is. Even today at the Breeze Ups, the consigners were saying that the same thing. That it's not just about the time they do up there; it's about how they can take it up here and how they can almost allow themselves to use themselves to the best of their ability to get the most out of them. So that's massive. I mean, having said that, he was still very green, I thought, when Ryan Moore really said go on him. Yeah. So he's got a lot more to learn. But
his first run, I think Aidan said afterwards as well that he hadn't been away yet. He hadn't actually left Ballydoyle. So it was the first day away. So it has to be like everything's brand new to him. New race course, opposition, races, colours, people, crowds. It's a whole new experience for him, and you'd forgive him being green, but he did quicken up well, and the time was pretty good as well. So. Yeah, very, very excited. I think that they were saying there were quotes of 14-1 about him for the Coventry Stakes afterwards. they're probably long gone, but I would have thought that was fairly big.
Yeah, they're exactly right, because it's the typical perfect profile, an early Aidan O'Brien sort that's come out, one on debut, which not all of them do necessarily. He leaves a lot on them to then improve again for another run, and then he's very likely to go up in trip and run into commentary, you'd imagine, and try and continue Aidan's great record in that. Elsewhere at Nace on Saturday, we had a couple of good performances. Dermot Wells started in fine form, hasn't he, this year?
No, he's doing really, really well. And Ushinor, I think it was Ushinor's first Group 3 race, first Group 3 win. And like imaging, he was very, very good. He quickened up well. He was pretty well back. Like this race, the Gladden Stakes, it's a race worth watching again and again, I think, because there's lots going on in it. Imaging was well at the back. He showed a really good turn of foot and was gutsy and got there. No Needs Never, the runner-up, Joseph O'Brien's horse. He doesn't have a very attractive head carriage, but it doesn't seem to stop him going forward. Like he does go forward. He was only just beaten a half a length by Imaging. Like he was punching way above his weight. He's a horse that he's only rated in the low hundreds. I suppose Imaging's only rated in the low enough hundreds as well. But he's a horse who can progress. Only a 3-year-old taking on elders as well. I don't think 3-year-olds have a very good. I don't think many 3-year-olds run in the Gladness, but not many win it. That's for sure. Liberavido, very, very interesting horse, making his debut for Aidan O'Brien. He was out the back as well, and Aidan said afterwards that they just wanted to get him settle and finish off his race over 7 furlongs, with I think the Loughlin Stakes in mind for him. Remember what he did in the Jersey Stakes when he was at Andre Fab? He raced out in the centre of the track, and he did remarkably well to win it. And as the meeting progressed,
for me, Don, was the second best Royal Ascot performance behind the Jesse Harrington filly. I thought that was he just didn't quite go on from that.
But I think he only ran one since, didn't he?
Yeah. I backed him when he did run something.
You remember that one? But like now, so the talent is there. He's with Aidan O'Brien. Not that Andre Farrer isn't a world-class trainer, but he's joined Aidan O'Brien now. That was a lovely start back, a lovely run as his first run back over 7. Whether he can stretch out to a mile. That I suppose the way he finished off his race that day suggests that he can, and with the Loughlin Stakes in mind, that's obviously it makes sense. It's a completely logical target for him, and he's very, very likely racehorse. He's 5 now, but he's only run 5 or 6 times. So
it was the year before, wasn't it? The Ascot. It was the year before. It wasn't last year.
Ascot. Oh no, it wasn't last year. It was the year before.
Yeah, exactly. It was the year before. I'm getting my years mixed. It was the year before, and then he came back at Newmarket and he looked as though he needed the run at the start of last season. That was it. That was the last
only run. So he didn't run again after Royal Ascot in 2017. Then he only ran once last year at the start of the season against Brando, and this is his next run since. So obviously he's had his issues, but he's obviously very talented as well. And even Romanize in that race, he didn't get a great run. Ken Conlon's horse, he could be a horse who can probably be marked up a little bit on the bare form of that run. So yeah, lots going on in that Gladden Stakes, and for all of that, the winner is very good, Imaging, and he's progressive, and he probably does need a wee bit of cut in the ground to be at his best. But when he has it, he could be very good. He could be one maybe for the autumn.
What do we think of Magical? I got the impression from comments afterwards they think this might just be her season. She's achieved a good level over the last couple of years, but she may have just really developed into on the strength of that performance, developed into something they might be quite excited about this year. I've got the impression.
Yeah, like she's only 4. I mean, she's had so much racing, and she's still like even at the end of last season, she probably put up the best performance of her life in running enabled to 3 parts of a length or a half a length in the Breeders' Cup last year. And the pair of them came clear. That was some buckle between the two of them, wasn't it? It was just a hell of a race.
I never had her down as staying the trip she did end up staying last year. I don't know why. I just didn't see her as that type. But she came into her own when she did, and this suited her well on reappearance. What do you think? What do you see her as ultimately developing into? I mean, what is the Arc a realistic target for the end of the season?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think why not? I know she was well beaten last year, but she was drawn way wide last year, and she wasn't beaten far. It was kind of, I suppose there weren't many horses beaten far in the Arc. They were they finished all quite close up to each other. But yeah, I think you can obviously allow her that run. I think she was drawn very wide that day, and then her next run after the Arc was in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Sorry, well, she came on and won at Ascot and then went the
Well,
race.
that's what led to so many of the Shrudies backing her at Ascot. Was the run in the art was so eye-catching, even though she was a massive price. And then, of course, she went and did what she did at Ascot and beat the two Gosden fillies. So yeah, but that's both of whom I had on the side. Still hurts. Maybe I'll just never like Magical. There you go. I'll always be against her.
Yeah, but you know, she looked exposed last year. Before she ran lots as a juvenile, and she's had plenty of running. But no, I agree with you. I think this, you know, she's a 4-year-old now, an older filly moving forward. That was a very good run, the Alleged Stakes on Saturday, to beat Flag of Honor, her stable companion, who's good, and Latrobe in third again. He's a horse who he'd probably be better over further. That was 1 mile and 2. He finished second behind Flag of Honor in the Irish Ledger last year. Won the Irish Derby, so 1 mile and 2 you'd think would be a fair way short of his best, and he stayed on from the rear. I think he was nearly second last, passing the furlong pole, and he stayed on to finish third. So now he was well beaten by Magical in the end, who was in turn and who was clear of Flag of Honor, but it was still a nice run from Latrobe, and I think still standing and finish fourth gives a good level to the race. And another Jessica Harrington's horse, another kind of low hundreds rated horse, but he had race fitness on his side, and he shaped on his first run at Naas as if he was better than a 100 or 105 rated horse. So I think he gives a good level of solidity, you know, to the form of the race. And the 3 horses in finish in front of him, they're obviously classed. They're higher rated than him. But I think Latrobe and Flag of Honor are both horses to look out for when they step up and trip. But yeah, Magic. I think the Coronation Cup maybe is a
that's been such a realistic target, isn't it?
I think that might be her. And you know, as we know that she stays 1.5 miles, so why not?
Yeah, well, enable.
Well, yeah, it was interesting. Ryan Moore said after, you know, he was asked about, you know, have another go at Enable, and he kind of went, prefer to avoid her if we can.
She's not bad. Now listen, a couple of bits of news coming out to rattle through. We won't just talk about horses, we'll talk about individuals. We wish Brendan Powell all the best, who's retired from training this week. And fascinatingly, is going to go and be an assistant to Joseph O'Brien. I imagine that probably wasn't too hard a decision. That's really exciting for Brendan, and please do feedback everything you can from that exciting yard. He's been an excellent guest on the pod many times, Brendan, so we wish you all the best in that new venture. That's exciting stuff. Also, Charlie Fellows, we're going to talk about one of his horses to wrap things up. But really interesting that he's the buyer of the yard which was previously owned and occupied by Luca Cumani. He's got now an extra sort of space for I think about 40 or 50 horses, because he was full where he was, and he's moved to a much bigger yard steeped in history. And that's a big move for a young trainer who now has some really nice horses, Charlie Fellows. He had one who was injured out in Dubai at the start of the year. That's in the form of Escalator. That's very disappointing for him. But we know what he achieved with the third in the Melbourne Cup with Prince of Arran. He also won out in Dubai. And he's just got a better quality of horse coming through. And that was highlighted by King Ottokar, who's going to be one of the flag bearers this year for that move, I think. King Ottokar was really good when winning at Newbury. We know he likes it there. And he's got a live Derby candidate on his hands. He looks as though he's going to stay that far. I think Charlie expected him to be placed on the day. There was a hot pot of John Gosden's in there, of another hot pot in there of Charlie Appleby's as well. But he took that field apart. I think a little bit of cutting the ground's key to him, and there was a bit there on Friday at Newbury. But that was a really, really smart performance of a horse I think got a bright future. And I love the fact that this young yard who are making this move are going to have a live Derby candidate.
He's a big horse, isn't he? Like he seemed to, and maybe that's why easy ground is important to him. But he, you know, like he looks like he'll stay further, doesn't he? Like 1.5 miles, big strapping horse going further, and went clear, and then they kind of closed him down late on. But it was a powerful performance rather than a speedy performance. You know what? Like I mean, a powerful horse.
Exactly right, powerful horse. I mean, he still showed a turn of foot. And perhaps he's more capable of showing that than others in with a little bit of ease in the ground. But he's a lovely long striding horse. I think he's really smart. And I think, you know, I was guilty of, because I know Charlie relatively well, and I know exactly how highly he thinks of this horse. But even he said afterwards, you know, I have nice horses, which are nice horses, and then John Gosden has nice horses, which are John Gosden horses. And he said, maybe I've got a nice John Gosden horse. But I was guilty of falling into that trap as well, because I know how much he likes him. But I still looked at the race, and even when I saw he was 17.0, I think he was at early doors, I thought, yeah, but to be honest, I said Charlie Fellow's nice horse, and there's a John Gosden nice horse and a Charlie Appy nice horse in there. And actually, I think we become a bit blinkered sometimes like that, Don. And you know, a nice horse is a nice horse, and it's great that this guy and this young yard, who are a great team, are showing the capability of handling and getting the best out of a horse like this. So I wish him all the very best.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like I suppose, you know, you can understand why he was a big enough price. You know, his last run last year was disappointing. So the last time we saw him, albeit in a Grade 1 or a Group 1 race, it was a disappointing run. But he had his impressive debut before that. And as you say, a nice horse, and a horse who physically looks like he's going to improve with racing as well, and improve as he gains in experience and matures further. So yeah, he's an exciting horse.
Brilliant. We'll finish up with the easiest question of the lot, Don. Winx, is she a superstar or entirely overrated?
How can you not say she's a superstar?
she's a superstar.
She's unbelievable. Yeah, what she's achieved, you know, for that, the longevity and the remain sound, and every single time to win, you know, to put 33 wins in a row, 25 Group 1s, like that's sensational stuff, I think. What do you think?
There are 2 points I'd make about her in a reaction to people, I think, quite fairly questioning the ability of those that she's beaten. The horse that finished second, I think, last win came 3 years ago, and I take that point. She's been beating a lot of the same horses as well. For all, Ben Battle is a pretty smart horse, and she comfortably put him in his place at the back end of last year. But the response would be, one, to get a horse to remain sound, which Chris Waller has done for that many races, is incredible. To get any horse to turn up that many times and give her best is incredible. And she can only beat what is racing against her. But it's not just that, it's the way she's been doing it. She's good enough to be ridden as wide as you like, produce her anywhere in the race you want, and she still gets the job done. And she does it head in chest. She does it easy as you like. And I think we will look back and perhaps question what she's beaten, but you can't question the manner in which she's done it. And we'll also look back and have no idea how good she might have been, because whatever you rate her, you can add on a bit because of the way she does it, which has never really been tested. Perhaps the earlier victories, but we have no idea how good she is. And if she were to run against an Enable over 10, we can't say for definite what would happen. We can have our suspicions, but I'm not having this Enable would beat her up census, because we don't know how good she is because of the manner in which she's done it. So look, and we'll never get to find out.
That's the key. I mean, it's a pity she never, because it was on the cards at once. Well, not on the cards, but it was a possibility that she'd come over for Royal Ascot last year, and it's a pity that she never did, because now, you know, we're never going to know. I guess we just have to celebrate what she achieved, and like the numbers, you know, the sequence that she's run up. You know, even to have a horse who's fit enough and well enough, as you said, to do that, and to remain as sound as she has, to win those Group 1, Grade 1 races. It's a pity she never came over, but we're never going to know. And what she's done for racing as well, global racing, but also over there. I mean, I'd love to have been to see her, but you know, front page news over there, day in, day out when she runs, it's quite remarkable. And I think you've got to be made of pretty grim stuff to be negative about her. Let's put it that way. But there we are. Good stuff, Don. Right. I'm glad you're in the pro Winx camp. I think we've got to be. Newmarket this week looks fascinating. We'll learn plenty over the Craven. Yeah, looking forward to that. Look, again, it's at that stage of the season where it's normally the other way around, isn't it? We normally have the Craven Stakes before the Greenham, whereas now, with whatever way, I don't know if it's how it's governed by the moon or by Easter or by the calendar, the vagaries of the calendar. It's blame the Easter Bunny, Don. It's all the Easter Bunny's fault. Yeah. Good stuff. We'll chat to you again next week. Look forward to that. I know you have you back on the pod very soon as well. Donn McClean, thanks very much for joining me. Thanks to those of you at home for watching the Matchbook racing review on what was an excellent weekend's racing. And we'll learn plenty more this week too. Bye for now.